There is no question that we have a lot of headwinds. We have a housing market that represents almost 24% of the market that has been dragging the economy. The economy is only growing at 2% a year. Normally it grows at 6%. So we have a dragging housing market. We have huge debts. We have manufacturing going overseas, losing jobs in this country. And we have a high cost of energy where we are dependent on foreign nations. Those are major drags on the economy, but despite that, the economy is still growing 2%. Many of those things, as I'm going to show you, are about to change and are right in the throes of changing. Here is the reason why America has a much brighter future than most people will believe if they read the newspaper. First of all, this country is a wealth-creating machine. I'm going to show you that in a minute. The productivity of this country is truly phenomenal. Energy production is now, due to new technology and horizontal drilling and natural gas production, we're going to make some great strides in there. The manufacturing business environment is about to change, and the housing market, in our opinion, is dragging on a bottom, and it's going to start making contributions to the economy in the next 6 months to a year and a half. But let's look at this country as a wealth-creating machine, because we hear about the debt, and we hear about America going broke, and we hear about all these insurmountable problems. But let's look at the facts. Here is a chart of the average American in the United States. This is combining all of their wealth together. This is not a chart of the government assets. This is a chart of your assets and everybody in this country, all 313 million people. And if you look at it, the bottom line in the total net worth column, you will see that in 2002, we were worth 41 trillion. This is after deducting all the consumer debt, all the mortgage debt, everything together. We were worth 41 trillion. With the market going up and the real estate market going up and everything, we got to $66 trillion. Then the bear market came and real estate went down, stocks went down, and we went down to $50 trillion. We are now back up to $58 trillion, and I believe the next couple of numbers will show that we're closer to $60 trillion. But think about that. From 2002 to now, in the last 10 years, Americans have increased their wealth almost 50%, from $40 trillion to $60 trillion. Now, does that sound like a country that's going to go broke with $60 trillion of net assets? I don't think so. Now, the next chart, I'm going to show you how America creates this wealth. And by the way, we own 30% of the wealth in the world. We're 4% of the population. We have 30% of the wealth. Here's how we create wealth. The first thing we do is we create a business. You look at Microsoft, Apple, Nike, 200,000 jobs out of nothing. Those jobs create the consumer spending. We need that because you're about 70% of the economy. That creates sales and profits. And then the companies invest in new technology, capital expenditures, and they create productivity. And the secret to this country and the secret to wealth is not bonds, is not gold. The secret is the productivity that our companies create, and that's founded in common stocks. Now let's look at the next chart. I'm going to show you just how productive America is. It's truly unbelievable. In 1840, 69% of the people were working on farms because it took that much. It took 70% of the population working on farms to produce enough food for the country. By 1900, productivity, from the horse and buggy to the tractors and all of the different technology, 38%. 1930, 21%. 1960, 8%. 1990, 3%. And currently it's less than 1%. Now just think about the wealth creating possibilities of this, where you're taking 70% of the people and now you only need 1%. That means the other 69% can be working on things to create wealth and productivity, which is what's made this country great. And as I said before, we're 4% of the population. We have 30% of the wealth. Let's go to the natural gas production, because the first thing I said is we're a wealth-creating country, and we do that through productivity. Now, here is just one of the most exciting things I can tell you about the future of America. We've always had, for the last 35 years, this energy problem. From 1968 to 2005, that's a period of 19 years, we went from 1.5 trillion cubic feet to 1.8. That's a 20% increase, but it took 19 years. That's less than 1% a year. In the last 7 years, due to hydraulic fracturing, we are increasing that, and we went from 7 years, from 1.9 trillion to 2.5 trillion. That's a 31% increase in 7 years, and it's just getting going. This means that we are going to be an exporter of natural gas rather than an importer. And I don't mind telling you that that's going to create a lot of wealth in this country, because look at the slide on the next page, and you'll see that the United States has got a gas cost of $2.50 a thousand cubic feet. Europe, if you buy it anywhere in Europe, you're going to pay $13. If you buy it in Japan, it's $16. This means as we create surpluses, we're going to tack $4 to $5 a thousand cubic feet for shipping and handling, but we're going to make a very handsome profit. That is not due to people working harder. That is due to the fact that we have developed technology which increases our productivity and is going to create wealth. And here, now we're going to talk about the manufacturing. So it's the productivity in every industry that's going to make the difference. Now, we have three major competitors: China, Europe, and Japan. The winds are now starting to blow behind America's back, because one of the problems that we have been able to accomplish through productivity is that on a productivity basis, the wages that we pay our people and what they are able to produce is starting to be competitive with the cheap labor in China. Matter of fact, I have a whole list of companies, and I won't go through the details here, that are all relocating their plants to America because of the fact that they now can produce it as cheap in America as in China. China also has a few other problems, besides the fact that their wages are going up and their inflation is going up. They've got reliability problems, so a lot of people are concerned about that. They have high shipping costs to bring it over here, and they have private property rights problems and piracy problems. So when you put it all together, there's going to be a lot of manufacturing companies that are going to relocate their plants and bring them to America, which is going to create jobs, and then the cycle starts all over again. Europe is mired in all kinds of problems, worse than China will ever have. That is because they have a welfare system, like in Greece, that literally stretched the debt in that nation to where they promise people so many things they're not going to be able to furnish it for 100 years. And people are going to have to fess up to the fact that they're not going to get these things that are promised. And they're going to have to cut back. That's going to take years and years. And so Europe is not very productive and is not going to be competitive with the United States. Japan has three major problems. And they have actually admitted that it is now cheaper for them to build automobiles in America than it is in Japan because of the high cost of the Japanese yen. They've got an aging population, which doesn't make people too productive at that age. They've got complete lack of natural resources. They've got a mountain of debt, 230% of GDP, twice as much as we do, and they do not have the ability to manufacture cheaper than us. So they are going to bring their plants over. And so what I'm saying to you is, due to that productivity that creates wealth, as I've showed you in natural gas, as I'm showing you in manufacturing, and now you've got a key driver that's been dragging this economy down. That's the housing market. And I can give you a ton of statistics about the housing market, but there's only two things that are really relevant. Number one, how many homes are there and what's the demand for those homes? Well, we've got a lot of surplus inventory due to the delinquency, and we're working through that. But here are two important keys. And we have a person do nothing but study the housing market all day long, and after seeing all the charts and all the graph and all the statistics and everything you can throw in together, there's really only two things that are important: supply and demand. And that is created by how many housing starts do we have. We used to produce 1.5 million new houses a year. That's because we had about 1.5 million new household formations, people getting married, starting families. The housing market got so bad that they dropped down to 350,000, from 1.5 million to 350,000. In the meantime, people who couldn't get a job, young people, lived with their parents, lived with their in-laws, so the household formations went down. But we got 3 million people turning 22 every year. They're going to be getting married, they're going to be having families, and whether they live in an apartment or whether they live in a home, they're going to need some kind of shelter, unless you believe they're all going to roll the biological clock back and they're not going to reproduce. Now, that's a bet I wouldn't make. So, when you look at the housing starts moving up back to 1.5 million, if we do not start building homes, you could actually have a housing shortage in 6 years. Now, I'm not predicting a housing shortage in 6 years, but I'm saying that the housing starts are going to start going up because the demand from household formations, even at this level, is twice what they're building. In addition to that, they are destroying 300,000 homes a year due to earthquakes, fire, and demolition for new homes. So if you take that into account, we're basically not adding to the supply at all. And I believe that that's going to change. And the next year, year and a half, you're going to see these changes. And then you're going to see a slow movement of support to this economy coming from manufacturing, coming from natural gas and oil production, and coming from housing. So, in conclusion, I would like to state that the United States has things that very few countries can match. They have universal recognition of their currency. There are no currency restrictions on this country. If you were in China, you could not take your money out of the country. You could not switch to another currency. We have a democracy that self-adjusts itself against mistakes. We have the House turning over every 2 years. We have the Senate turning over 1/3 of it every 2 years. If you don't like the policy, and I hope you'll do something about it this election, you have a chance to change that. We have property rights like no other country. We have the largest, most liquid capital market in the world to fund this productivity. We have the strongest military power in the world that protects our lives, our property, and our freedom. These are the tangible factors that pull people to this country, that attract talent, and that attract capital. And it is because of these reasons that I believe the U.S. stock market is a good place to protect your capital, but most important, if you buy it right. Thank you very much.